This is Keith Fraser for Seconds Out. I'm here with the head of Sky Sport Boxing, Adam Smith. Adam, lovely to see you on a kind of funny day, right?
It is. It's a very difficult time. Obviously, very precarious time out there. Coming in on the tube today and seeing it sort of half deserted. It's obviously the only thing that matters at the moment is the health of the nation, of the world, and anything that we have to do or we're advised to do, then we follow. I mean, we're broadcasters, and obviously there's a lot of sporting events which have been postponed over the last few days, and so things are tricky at the time. But sport is one thing. Boxing, even at another level. We've got to look about the health of people's families and people's loved ones, and that's all that matters. And as far as we're concerned in boxing, it's the fighters and the fans and their health and safety, and that's the most important thing. And I guess we just take each day as it comes. I think we weren't sure whether this press conference would even happen. It has. The government said certain things yesterday, which meant that not everything was being changed immediately, but obviously a lot has happened today, even hour by hour. It's moving at such a pace and such a rate that the most important thing is that everybody keeps safe out there. And I'm sure that Eddie and Matchroom and the British board and everyone will make the right decisions at the right time in with each event. But you've got to say that the events going forward, it's very precarious a situation over the coming weeks.
So, I mean, how do you plan for this? I mean, obviously you can't plan. Businesses are people are not going to work. People are worried to go out. This is the first I've been into town for a few weeks, and I couldn't believe how empty it was. I mean, how does the boxing fraternity prepare for this? I mean, this date is the 23rd of May. We're at the press conference for Usyk Chisora, a fantastic bout, potentially. How do you plan for that? They're saying it could last into the summer.
Yeah, I mean, it's boxing. We've worked in boxing for 25, 30 years at Sky. There are all sorts of things that have been thrown at us over the years, with fights being postponed, cancelled, fighters making weight, all sorts of stuff's happened that throw things into jeopardy. But this is a global, pandemic. This is something none of us have ever seen before, or certainly, not for many, many years. And I think it's just, boxing's unpredictable at the best of times. It's, things can change. Fighters can get injured. It's not a team sport. It's you look at the football players that have self-isolated in the last sort of 48 hours, and obviously they're going to be off for a couple of weeks, but beyond that, hopefully they'll be back, or if not, their teammates will, and they can feel the side and all the rest of it. Boxing's very different. It's an individual sport, so especially you've got certain time frames to train in, whether it's 10, 12 weeks, and you peak at certain, it's very difficult. And suddenly if you say, I don't know, April whatever won't happen, or May won't happen, then you've got to restart and you've got to take time off. Even with this, Derek Chisora felt that the Usyk fight would happen earlier in the year, and they got him all ready for a date, and then it wasn't. It was put back, so he had to go on holiday. So fighters are sort of used to the fact that they've always, even when they're coming through as young kids, they've known they might fight at 6 o'clock in the evening or 12 o'clock. They're afloat. They don't know. So you've got to be ready for those situations. But it's very difficult in boxing. It's very difficult with individual sports. And the tennis world, they've postponed things for 6 weeks. And boxing is you can't really do that because it's sort of each individual event, and the way that things are changing, it might be that next week is fine, the week after or the week after that is not. With mass events, it may be that we just don't know. It's difficult. We've got a golden contract event at York Hall next week, and that's a smaller audience. So will that be okay? Will that go behind closed doors? Will the British board say our doctors can't be there, therefore fighters can't make it, therefore it's absolutely right that should be postponed? It's almost all individual, and I heard Frank Warren saying that the great Dubois Joyce fight, which is brilliant, it's not in jeopardy. Well, that may not be now, but in a few days' time that might change. It might be the government might say, or they might decide that that's not the right thing to do. So it's a very difficult time, and I think you just have to take each step at a time. We've got the press conference here. Alexander Usyk and Derek Chisora is a great heavyweight matchup for many reasons. Most people feel that Usyk will have the skill set to be able to deal with Derek, but Derek's got that size, that volatility, the unpredictability, the power, the strength, the fire in his belly under that new sort of David Haye, Ruben Tabarez, setup, which has given him an Indian summer in the sport. And you think it's a really intriguing fight, and fingers crossed it will go ahead on May the 23rd at the O2, and everyone can look forward to it. But if it doesn't, and it's put back a few weeks, it's put back. There's things much bigger than this, Keith, and it's all about the health and safety of the population, and that's what matters.
Let's hope for good days, and let's hope the fight does go ahead. It is a fascinating matchup. I mean, the winner potentially goes on to have a crack at one of the versions of the world title. Where does the loser go? Because if Usyk loses, everyone's going to say he's not the real deal at heavyweight. If Chisora loses, people are going to say that's it for him. What do you think? Yeah,
I mean, look, it's just Derek is 36 now. He's got 9 defeats on the record. He seems to be the big survivor, though, and people love him. He sells out the O2. He's a cult character. People are fascinated by Derek Chisora. So, yeah, you'd have thought, he is the underdog in this, and if Usyk, gets through him and moves on, then, Derek may only have, 1 or 2 fights left. He might sail into the sunset. He's got a lot of other interests. He's served his time in British boxing, but he also sees this as the golden ticket. And Usyk's the mandatory for AJ for the WBO title. And if he can steal a march on that and somehow get a meeting with Joshua, old Finchley stablemates, I mean, it would be bizarre, but it would be incredible if he could do that. So, there's a lot of hope and expectation for the Usyk team, but I think there's a lot at stake for Derek if he can get another huge payday out beyond this. So, but yeah, I think, Alexander's looking at, this is a real test at heavyweight. I think the first fight he had with Witherspoon was a gentle sort of, ease into the heavyweight world, and people were, can he punch at heavyweight? There were a lot of question marks that came out of that, maybe unfairly. It was a late change of opponent. Alexander's gone off. He's actually come back. He looks bigger. He's maybe had a few more months to settle in at heavyweight, and that's what David Haye, and that's what Evander Holyfield did. And David will be a good judge of that in Derek's camp to say, this is what a cruiserweight going up to heavyweight can do. This is what you might need to push on him in the early days of him being a heavyweight. So there's a good ally there. There's also a good ally in Tony Bellew, obviously, who shared a ring with Usyk, who's their best mates, him and Derek, and so he's got those advantages to help him, Derek. But he will be seen as an underdog here, and rightfully so. Alexander is a wonderful fighter, brilliant amateur, fought at heavyweight in the amateurs, of course, won Olympic gold, world championship gold, did everything at cruiserweight, probably the best cruiserweight maybe bar Holyfield that's ever lived. And now he tests himself at heavyweight, and his team are very convinced he'll become world heavyweight champion. And, he's got to get past Derek Chisora and then obviously Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury to do that. So, he's very confident he can, and we'll see what he looks like on May 23rd.